What are some theories/beliefs from the past scientists/academics got incredibly wrong? The Aristotelian interpretation of gravity was that everything was made of four elements: earth, air, fire, water, and everything wants to return to its core state. So heavy things fall to the ground because they're mostly earth. Burning wood separates the air elements, smoke, from the earth elements, charcoal, etc. That's such a fun theory that I wish it was true. Right? Pretty elegant theory considering what they had to work with, honestly. Aristotelian physics is fascinating in general, although many other elements are pretty easily debunked by basic experimentation. Their take on the laws of motion, for example. Some URL. Sterile techniques in medicine. The first doctor who tried standardizing hand washing for surgeons was ridiculed to the point of a nervous breakdown, committed to an asylum, and beaten to death by the guards. To think how many millions of lives were lost unnecessarily throughout history because we somehow didn't figure out that dirty wounds are so much more dangerous than clean ones. Ignaz Semmelweis. I just said that out loud and my desk started floating. Thank you for that comment. I needed a good laugh. My grandfather died during a surgery to remove ulcers from his stomach. At the time, ulcers were believed to be just caused by excess acid in stomach. Treatment was just palliative with antacids and diet, until you had to remove the ulcers. It was the widespread belief that bacteria cannot survive in the human stomach due to the acid. And #X200B. Nowadays he would just take an oral antibiotic for a week and the ulcers would be gone. Penicillin was available at the time, just that the doctors did not believe that ulcers could be caused by bacteria. Wait, so ulcers are just bacterial and can't be caused by spicy food? I feel like that was such common knowledge thing in the 90s that I still thought it was true. I've gotten 2 separate stomach ulcers from ibuprofen. I no longer take it at all. I was taking less than my doctor said too. Hello. Ever wondered what theories or beliefs past scientists got hilariously wrong? Well, join us on this YouTube adventure and prepare to be amazed. Subscribe now and drop your thoughts below because we want to know what theories left you laughing or scratching your head. Can't wait to hear from you. Historian of science here. One interesting example that comes to mind is the phlogiston theory to explain combustion and oxidation. Scientists were baffled by these natural processes, and it was a German chemist named Georg Stahl who proposed that combustible compounds contained a substance called phlogiston that was released when they burned or oxidized. After combustion, for example, the smoky air that resulted was phlogisticated air, later known to be mostly nitrogen and carbon dioxide. It was primarily the later work of Antoine Lavoisier that cleared this up. Chemistry was one of the last branches of science to become what we call a mature science, as by the mid-18th century it still clung to Aristotelian ideas and medieval alchemical notions. This case is often held up as a good example of Thomas Kuhn's model of how scientific revolutions actually occur. His book The Structure of Scientific Revolutions is still widely read, and it's the reason that terms like paradigm and paradigm shift are so widely used today. I leaned heavily on that book for my master thesis on what a scientific phenomena is. Good times. The doctor who invented the lobotomy procedure was awarded the Nobel Prize for it. That was a pretty misinformed decision, even at the time. Which gave way to the worst country song of all time. I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy. I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy. Some URL. I might be drunk, but at least I'm not insane. Well, let's just say that back in the day, the Nobel Committee had a little too much faith in mind-blowing medical procedures. The racial theories that resulted from the discovery/reconstruction of the Proto-Indo-European language in the 19th century. These theories include the Aryan master race core belief of Nazism. Fun fact: Carl Linnaeus himself classified other races into 5 subgroups, but interestingly enough Linnaeus was against the idea that any race was inferior or superior to another. As such, he was pretty pissed when people took his works and used it for racism. That ulcers were caused by stress. Barry Marshall was convinced they were in part caused by bacterial infection. No one believed him, so he figured out how to culture the suspect bacteria, infected himself, and then cured himself. He won the Nobel Prize. I read a meta-study about doctors trying out things on themselves because no one else believed in their crazy theories. They found about 450 such studies. Between 5 and 10 of them died. Roughly the same number won Nobel Prizes. The study has exact numbers, but I don't remember them right now. I just found it hilarious but also strangely reasonable that the same number of doctors died because they were crazy as was awarded the Nobel Prize because they were right all along. I think it quite nicely fits the statistical distribution. Most cutting-edge science is made by people who are a little crazy. That infants cannot feel pain. Up to the 1980s, doctors operated on babies without anesthesia. How did they come to that conclusion? Would the hysterical screaming and crying not be a dead giveaway? I think maybe because infants don't remember things. If you don't remember, then it didn't happen logic. Doctors knew the babies felt pain. But, as others have noted, infants couldn't be safely given anesthesia. So they told the parents a lie to make them feel better. Doctors used to lie a lot. I love the idea of miasma theory. Before germ theory, it was thought contagious diseases spread through their smell. Like the Black Death spread by the smell of rotting corpses. Also cool to know that those witch doctor masks with the long, bird-beaked nose was filled with herbs and spices at the end. The idea was the smells would prevent the doctors from getting sick. Also at the same time frame, they thought that to cure something, you would have to use a plant that looks like the problematic organ lol. And bloodletting? Bloodletting actually makes sense, it's just that it's not really correct. Assume you have poisoned water in a water jug that makes clean water magically. Would the smartest thing not be to flush some of the bad water out and wait for it to make fresh water and eventually it should be just clean water? Linus Pauling, a chemist with multiple Nobel Prizes, thought enough vitamin C could cure any disease. And people still do today. I watch people drinking that flew away 10,000% VCT bullshit and I always feel the need to point out their body can only metabolize so much of it before it just gives up and pisses the majority of it out. When my wife was going through cancer treatment in 2017, the hospital suggested she participate in a study on the effects of high doses of vitamin C. It wasn't supposed to cure her cancer, because they already knew that didn't work, but they wanted to see if it helped the cancer from coming back. We didn't participate in that study. They dropped the study a few months after we heard about it. I get a lot of vitamin C, but that's mostly on account of Bloody Marys. As someone who drinks a gallon of orange juice every day, I can confidently say I'm still waiting for my superpowers to kick in. But hey, at least I'm preventing scurvy. The notion that allergies are psychosomatic. During the 1930s and 1940s, psychiatry was a hot field and almost nothing was known about immunology. The idea of psychosomatic ailments was intriguing and several psychiatrists proposed that allergies and asthma were psychosomatic. Physicians responded to childhood asthma and allergies by performing a parentectomy, literally splitting up families and sending children to live in rural group homes. Sometimes a child's health did improve from this intervention. Yet rather than searching for other causes such as mold in the walls of the family's home, the psychiatrists assumed they had rescued those kids from toxic parenting practices. The association of allergic to for something someone didn't like entered popular usage during this era, as a result of some of the things those psychiatrists wrote for the general public. That notion turned out to be nonsense. It got debunked by the late 1960s when microbiologists identified which part of the immune system was malfunctioning. Yet allergic to Mondays is something people still say, and a substantial share of people with life-threatening allergies have been poisoned by family members or acquaintances who were trying to prove that the problem was all in your head. Phrenology. Of course you'd say that, you have the brainpan of a stagecoach tilter. I'd like to send this letter to the Prussian consulate in Siam by aeromail. Am I too late for the 4:30 autogyro? You there? Fill it up with petroleum distillate and revulcanize the tires post-haste. Hold up there, Marco Polo. There's a New Mexico? As an avid phrenology enthusiast, I can proudly say that analyzing my lumpy head has given me absolutely zero insight into predicting the outcome of reality TV shows. Before Kepler demonstrated that planetary orbits were elliptical, astronomers had to work with a bizarre theory called epicycles, like a series of loop-the-loops, to account for irregularities in a circular orbit.